Okay. Now you see assembly line. We are actually discussing this, but just wanted to have that you can say a definition, right? That an assembly line is basically a production line that consists of a sequence of workstations where assembly tasks are performed either manually or through automated operations. That's what an assembly line is. Okay. Uh, it breaks up the manufacture of a good into steps that are completed in a predefined sequence. So we have defined some sequence, right? I told you that total task is defined into several work elements, we can call it, right? So we will do it step by step in a sequence. So that's what is meant. And now I want you to look at a video. Okay, here is that video. Okay, just so where this concept came, okay, how it came into being, we'll see that. Okay,
At first, they made
able to hear the audio, right? And see the video. Yes. You are able to see the video and hear the audio. Unable to hear you. Who was it? Okay, let me call some names so that we can see whether we have attention or not. 398 Pranav. 398 Pranav. 398. Okay, not in the class. I'll remove him from the meeting. Okay, fine. Let me continue.
everything from scratch. Pasta, films, shoes, cars, everything. Until Model T, that is. Well, actually, it all started with Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations in 1776, where Smith emphasized on the division and specialization of labor. We are talking about the process called assembly line. In fact, during the Napoleonic Wars,
Right, where that concept came, that when they tried to have this what do you call premise, that specialization of labor, that each labor will be allotted for a specific task, right? So that he can do it repetitively and gain mastery over it. Okay, so that was the premise upon which we have this assembly line, right? Wherein each worker is allotted a particular task to do.
About the process called assembly line. In fact, during the Napoleonic Wars, the French built guns using this idea too. Back to 1908, when Henry Ford started making a car called the Model T, inspired by the Chicago slaughterhouses, where workers specialized in just one task performed over and over at a pace set by the conveyor belt. Ford's engineers decided to use this same trick to manufacture their latest car, and the moving assembly line was formally born. Today too, for every unit of raw car,
you see, this is also another category, that the conveyor, it will be moving, okay, continuously moving, and the workers have to do it. So there will be a lot of stress actually to do it, and but to maintain the pace of the line, okay, to maintain the production rate, they implemented this kind of system that will be moving, right? And they have to do their particular task. You observe, as it is moving, they are performing it.
Trick to manufacture their latest car, and the moving assembly line was formally born. Today too, for every unit of raw material to turn into a finished product, it has to go through similar processes. In 1908, Henry Ford did not just manufacture the Model T car, Ford also manufactured a new production process. The assembly line process is used by car manufacturers even today. When you study supply chain and operations, you too will be taught just how the assembly line process works. This process basically involves manufacturing each part separately and assembling them to form the final product. Assembly,
right? That worker is welding it, isn't it? So within that allotted cycle time, he has to do it, right? Then it will leave. The work part will leave, right? This is basically synchronous kind of work part transport, right? We have discussed the methods of work part transport in the first part of third unit. First one was continuous, that the bottles were continuously moving, and meanwhile they are being filled. That is continuous type of work part transport. This is synchronous, that they will stop for some time and then they will move to other station. Synchronous type of work part transport. Other one was asynchronous, wherein you have different processing time, because each station, here they are doing welding, other they may be doing some adding some other component, right, with some other kind of method. So that will require another different processing time. So that is where you have to go for asynchronous type of work part transport, wherein only when the worker has allowed the work part to move, it will move. Okay, it will not be decided, it will not be pre-decided. Okay, that is where your asynchronous type of work transport is. Okay,
line workers usually rotate jobs and learn more than one part of the assembly process, including material gathering, construction, quality control, packaging, and shipping. An assembly line worker reviews and follows instructions, diagrams, and blueprints to complete his task. Many years later,
and this is very important when you have different versions being made, right? So each product will have a different blueprint, right? Different features to be installed. So that worker has to be very careful when there is a lot of customization, right?
And blueprints to complete his task. Many years later, in the 1960s, Toyota launched the Corolla and changed the way the assembly line worked. Toyota introduced the just-in-time process as a part of the assembly line, a strategy to increase efficiency and decrease waste, by receiving goods only as they are needed in the production process, thereby reducing inventory costs and encouraging mass production. Which other modern industries do you know that?
Right, that was the concept, just-in-time concept, that only when the products are being required, they will be sent, right? They will not be waiting in queues. Okay, that reduces inventory and also increases the efficiency, right? But the suppliers have to be very what do you call, responsive. Okay, if the suppliers are taking much time, then you will have losses in production, right? Because your parts are not being supplied just in time, right, as the concept is. So that uh, that was the video about the introduction to assembly line. Okay, Other than that, there is another video. I'm unable to download it from YouTube. So we'll see it on YouTube itself. Okay, robotic assembly line. Right, this is for production of a washing machine. Okay, they are making that structure for the washing machine. Okay. You see the time required to move it down, and then it has to start processing. You see what we saw in the last transfer lines. We discussed what is cycle time, right? Cycle time, ideal cycle time, that is within 6 seconds it has to be performed. But other problems was the downtimes of the workstations. Any other workstation, if this workstation is down, for example, second one, then this cannot what do you call, output its part, right? The first one cannot give its output, so there will be blocking here, right? So that downtimes, because of downtimes you have some other loss in time. So the ideal cycle time, instead of 6 seconds, it may be more than maybe 4 seconds, right? Because of that, because that total downtime will be distributed, isn't it? For 2 hours the production is down, so for the whole day you will see how is it affecting the cycle time. So instead of doing it in 6 seconds, it may require maybe 10 seconds. Sorry, I reduced it, right? It should increase, right? Because of production downtimes, maybe ideal cycle time 6 seconds, but because of this equipment failures, etc., you are having it average time to do it maybe 10 seconds. But you see, within that 10 second also, some time is required for positioning it, right? So that is another time that you have to deduct, that the actual service time is less. The time where this robot starts performing its operation is where your service has begun, right? Other things are your repositioning times, transfer times, etc. So that also is another factor to be looked at. You also have to give provisions for that. Okay, we'll see that problem wherein they will subtract that positioning time. Okay.
Subscribe to our
Okay, that was about robotic assembly line. Okay. Any other video? Okay, let us have some theory and then we'll come back to this. Okay. So that was the assembly line concept. And yes, robotic assembly line we have seen, right? How it looks like. And manual, as we know, workers will do it. Like for example, it starts from here, right? Base part. Now assembly one, the worker will add some component, assembly two. So this conveyor belt will take the part to different workers. Finally, inspection and then packaging by another worker. So this is one cell, you can say, of manual assembly line. Okay. Now the problem is assembly line balancing. Okay, just as we had problems in transfer lines, the problem was because there were downtimes, the efficiency was decreasing. So we introduced buffer storage. Here, what we are doing, the problem is actually the line balancing problem. Okay. Uh, Basically, there are two concepts that you have to uh, divide the the total work content, right? Like for example, I have to add one component with another one. Okay, but the addition of this requires too many tasks. Like for example, placing them, aligning them. Okay, and then maybe some doing some spot welds at some places, and then attaching some threaded holes, right? Inspecting it. All of these are subtasks, right? So when I'm dividing the total work content into work elements, yes, who is it? Doubts? Okay, fine. So we are dividing it, right? The problem is to arrange the individual processing and assembly task at the workstation so that the total time required at each workstation is approximately the same. So I told you we're dividing it, right? Uh, Let me show you that problem. You see here, this is for assembling an appliance. Okay, there is some appliance, electrical appliance. We have to assemble it. See, these are the work elements. Just the assembly of it. Okay, to complete an assembly, all these work elements are required. First one, place the frame in the work holder and clamp, right? The frame, the base part. You are clamping it. Assemble the plug, grommet to power cord, assembly of the plug, assembly of the brackets to the frame, wire power cord to motor, right? All these are, you see, just to give you an idea, what I mean by dividing the total work into work elements, right? Assembling, aligning, right? All these are attaching the cover, inspect and test. So individual work times, we have divided the work basically into these 12 work elements, right? When you have done that, the problem is each work you have to dedicate workstations for it, right? Like this requires 0.2 minutes, that requires 0.7 minutes. Different operations have different processing times, right? They require different times to do it. So you have to arrange it so that every other workstation is having the same almost the same service time. Okay, because you have to move the line at some pace, right? For every 6 seconds you have to move it. So after every 6 seconds it will move. If some station is having maybe 10 seconds as a cycle time, because they are overloaded now, they have to do more of these work elements. So then your line is not balanced, you can say. Neither another cases, they are underloaded. That is, instead of achieving it in 10 seconds, because you have allotted them less work elements to do, they're doing it in 5 seconds. So 5 seconds out of 10 seconds, 5 seconds they have done it, 5 seconds they are idle, right? So they should not be idle, they should not be overloaded. Okay, no congestion and no idle time. That's what is the concept. So that is the problem of line balancing. Okay, you have to allot work elements to stations so that there is not much idle time, there is not much congestion, no overloading also. Okay, that is actually the problem when it comes to assembly line balancing. It is to arrange the individual processing and assembly task at the workstation so that the total time required at each workstation is approximately the same. Okay, nearly impossible to reach the perfect balance. So it is not possible that you every other workstation you are giving it exactly that cycle time and they are not idle at all, they are not over congested. right? Congested. So they may be sitting idle for some part of the time, but you have to minimize that, right? That's what the line balancing problem is. What are the things to consider? Sequence of tasks is restricted. There is required order which gives rise to precedence constraints. You see, I told you the example of drilling, right? Drilling and threading. For you to have assembly, right? For example, two components have to be attached. Okay. They are to be attached with threaded fasteners, right? So that requires threading to be done on both components, right? And before that, you have to do drilling. So if drilling is not done, you cannot do threading, right? So that is precedence constraints, that you are limited because some operations require preceding operations, right? There is a required order to be followed. So that is what is called precedence constraint. That is one major aspect, one major problem, you can say, precedence constraints. Like for example, I'll give you that. Yes, you see, this is given, must be preceded by. Okay, let me, yes, use slideshow. You see, the first operation is not preceded by anything, so it does not require any prior operations. But you see, third one, to assemble brackets into frame, the first operation has to be performed. It must be preceded by one. What is one? You have to place the frame in work holder and clamp. Only when you have placed the frame in the work holder and clamped it, then you can assemble the brackets to the frame. You see, there are limitations. That is what we mean by precedence constraints, that certain other operations have to be performed for our current operation to get performed. Is it clear what we mean by precedence constraints? Okay, that is one aspect. Another is the production rate. You have to achieve some production rate, right? You'll decide a schedule, monthly schedule or yearly schedule. Maybe some companies even decide the annual production. So based on the annual production, you decide the monthly production. Based on the monthly production, you'll decide weekly production. Based on the week, you'll decide per day. That per day we have to produce so and so components. And based on per day, you will look at how much should be the cycle time, that for every 10 seconds, one component should be produced in order to match this production rate. So that is how you are deciding the cycle time. Okay, is it clear? That you have to look at the production rate. So that you can decide the line pacing, the speed at which the operations are being performed. Okay, design the line to meet demand and within constraints. Okay, that's what we are doing, right? To meet the demand and within the constraints of the workstations, of the workers, right, of the downtimes, etc. Terminology: minimum work element. That is the basic, what do you call, the minimum work element, the rational work element that you can do. For example, maybe drilling a hole, for example, right? Drilling a hole is one basic element you can do, isn't it? Can you subdivide it more? No. Yes, if it is a very thick, what do you call, hole, then this may increase the cycle time, right? So you can do it, you can do a subdivision later. But for a sheet metal, for example, doing a hole is a minimum work element that you can do. So similarly, for deciding any other operation, you will see what is the minimum work element that I can subdivide. Okay, total work content. So that is the total work that you have to do, right? Summation of all the minimum work elements, right? That, for example, you see here all these individual work times. If you combine these, you will get the total work content. Okay, that's what we mean by total work content. Workstation process time, basically the time that is required on the workstation, right? Cycle time, if for example, this cycle time you have set as 10 seconds, but the actual service time is 6 seconds because of you are going to reposition it, the robo or the human worker is going to come to that work part, right? Several other constraints are there. So that is workstation process time. Cycle time, precedence constraints, as I was mentioning, one thing has to be performed before the other is to be done. balance delay. That is basically, for example, you are doing it. I mean, one process is to be performed, okay, in 10 seconds. And you have set the different work elements, different workstations you have allotted. Workers are there. Some workers are idle for some part of time. For example, 8 seconds they have done it, 2 seconds they are idle, okay, because the total time is 10 seconds for that line. That 2 seconds is the balance delay, okay. That is what is meant. Minimum work element, as I was mentioning, dividing the job into tasks of rational and smallest size. For example, drilling a hole, it cannot be divided any further, right? Symbol for time element is T, EJ or EK, you can even call it, okay. That is what we are seeing, right? 0.3, 0.2 minutes, the time required to achieve that particular task, okay. And if you want to have the total work content, you sum all of that, right? Sum of individual work element times will give you the total work time. Workstation process time, amount of time for an individual workstation after individual tasks have been combined into stations. Sum of task times will give us the sum of workstation times, isn't it? Cycle time, time between parts coming off the line, as we were seeing in that washing machine example, right? Assembly line. Ideal the production rate, but maybe need to be adjusted for efficiency and downtime. As I was saying, right, based on the yearly annual production rate, you will decide the cycle time. So from year you'll get to month, month to week, week to day, and then day to that time. For example, for every 10 or 15 seconds, a component has to be assembled, like that. Established by the bottleneck station, that is station with largest time. So to set this, you have to look at the workstation, right? Like you have set 5 workstations. One workstation is taking more time. So you're limited by the bottleneck station, right? So your cycle time, as I was mentioning, that if you have one workstation having 7 seconds as processing time, other having 10, other maybe having 3, the other maybe having 8 or 9. So your slowest station is this one. So your cycle time will have to consider this. It has to be 10. Okay. So you have to adjust in between. Like for example, this is there is very less work required here, right? No, the work elements, they are only of 3 seconds. So you have to distribute it, right? Some of the elements you have to distribute here so that it equalizes. So we can set maybe if some part of it is given, this comes out to be maybe some 7, like for example. So this is maybe 6, right? So then we can say the average is almost near to, we can set 9 as the cycle time, right? Because that is the highest here. So this will be idle for 2 seconds, this will be idle for 1 second, 2 again, 3. Okay, so the idle time we are trying to minimize by distributing the work elements and setting the cycle time, right? Precedence constraints I was mentioning, determined by the required order of operation, as per the order drawn in a network style for understanding. There is that network diagram also. You see like this, that 3 has to be performed. I'm sorry, for 3 to be performed, you have to have one first element being performed. For example, 9 requires 6, 7, and 8 as precedence, and 6 requires 3, like that. Okay. So that's what you mean by precedence constraints. Cannot violate these. An element must be complete before the next one is started. Okay. Balance delay, as we're mentioning, measure of line inefficiency, right? So the time that you are idle, that is balance delay is a measure of that. Okay. N times TC, that is number of workstations you have. TC minus TW total work content divided by NTC again. So it gives you the inefficiency basically. So you have to minimize this. Now there are 3 methods. Okay. When it comes to assembly line, what do you call, line balancing, you have 3 methods. Okay. First one being largest candidate rule. That is how you are going to list the elements, right? That is what is the criteria, isn't it? The line balancing problem is basically you are going to assign elements to workstations, right? So how are you going to do it? First method, largest candidate rule. You list the elements in descending order of t. So you'll see which is the operation which is requiring the greatest amount of time, highest amount of time. You'll take it to the first one. Okay, so that is what we mean by ascending order, right? I'm sorry, descending order. Okay, starting from the highest to the lowest, and then assign elements to first station from top to bottom of list, minding constraints and not causing sum to exceed cycle time. I told you we have decided the cycle time based on the production rate. So if you have set it, for example, in our case, it is 1 minute. Okay. So you have to look at, you see now, we have placed it in descending order. That's the first step. This is the first step, right? We have placed work element 3 first because it is having 0.7 as the, what do you call, task time, right? And then 8 because it is having 0.6, 0.5. So it is in descending order, right? From this, right? From the number of, from the works element time, I'm sorry, work element number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. We have arranged it as per this largest candidate rule. Okay, that's the first step. And the precedence requirements are already are also there. Okay, they have not changed. But now what is the next thing? Assign elements to first station from top to bottom of this, minding constraints and not causing the sum to exceed cycle time. So you have to look at two things. Cycle time, is it exceeding the cycle time, or constraints are being violated? I'll show you. You see, work element 2 is placed first. It is having 0.4. Why not? Why can't we do for 0.7? It can be assigned, right? Why haven't we done it? Because it is work element 3, but it has to be preceded by 1. There is precedence constraints here, right? I told you, you have to mind, keeping in mind the constraints also. So because 3 requires 1 and we have not placed 1, right? We are starting with just the first one. So now you look at another one, 0.6, but it requires 3, 4. Okay, no. 0.5, it requires 9 and 10. Okay, no. Second one, 0.4, right? You placed it. Why? Because it does not require any other prior operations, right? So 0.4 you have placed. So similarly, just as you have done this, once you have placed it, you have to go back again from the first. That's the rule. Okay, you'll start from the beginning. 0.7, how much does it require? I mean, what is the time? 0.7, but it has to be preceded by 1 we have not done. We are done work element 2, right? First element has not been placed yet, so that cannot be placed. Similarly, 0.6, 0.5, we have placed fifth work element. Why? You see, from for all of this, 0.4 you have placed it. Okay, these require 0.38 requires 5 and 8. This requires third operation. This requires second, but you have already placed second, right? Here, that is why we placed 5. There is no precedence constraints here, and we have to look at the total cycle time now. What is it? 0.4 plus 0.3, 0.7. How much is required in our case? How much is the cycle time? 1 minute. So 1 minute, we still have some idle time, right? 0.4, 0.3, 0.7. So more 0.3 can be accommodated here. So we assign 1, 4, similarly 0.2, 0.1. Now you see, when we have assigned this, you add this, it comes out to be 1. Now we cannot add more because the cycle time will exceed. Okay, so then we'll stop here. So this is what you will first station will be consisting of, these 4 type elements. Okay, we have stopped because the station time was reached, right? Station time that we have decided, 1 minute based on the production rate, this has reached, so therefore we'll stop here. So workstation 1 will have to perform these 4 work elements. Okay, similarly you go for second one. Is this clear? Largest candidate rule. You see, once this is done, we'll draw a network diagram, right? And we're also